Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I'm sure you're all vaguely familiar with this series housing some of the most critically acclaimed skateboarding games featuring the Birdman himself. Having been one of the most influential skaters of all time, he practically carried skateboarding culture on his back, inspiring kids of all ages to pick up a board of their own. I just so happened to be one of these kids. I picked up a skateboard while I was on holiday at one point. I wanted to replicate a trick my sister had shown me, and I subsequently broke my arm. But I digress. With the recent announcement of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 and the ensuing skepticism surrounding it, I wanted to remain cautiously optimistic. So, what better way to start than reminding you all that no matter how this remake turns out, it'll never be worse than this mistake. In 2015, Activision's original run with the rights to Tony Hawk's name was set to expire. With the expiration date looming overhead, the task fell on Robomodo, a team of former EA Chicago and Midway employees, to create one final game. Who is Robomodo, I hear you not asking right now? Why, they became the new developers of the Birdman's games when Neversoft dropped the series after nearly a decade, most likely due to burnout. The first in their lineup was Ride. It used the infamous plastic skateboard that hardly worked most of the time, and it was terrible. This was followed by Shred, another plastic skateboard game that was slightly less terrible. Robomodo's first real Tony Hawk game would be 2012 Pro Skater HD, a clunky, half-baked, bug-riddled remake of the first two games with DLC that added a handful of levels, and the revert, from Pro Skater 3. I never played it, probably for the best. As for their last game, it was quite the doozy. Let's not pretend like we don't know about the backlash that this game received. You know it, I know it. This game was torn to shreds by everyone who got their hands on it. No preview copies were given out to review outlets prior to release. So why am I covering it today, considering everyone knows how bad it truly is? I don't know. But if I'm suffering, you're suffering with me. Get in, losers, we're going Pro Skater 5ing. For the time being, I'll be playing the game from a fresh install off the disc, given my copy has all 7 levels available on release. I don't know if my copy is a later print or if the disc thing was a widespread misconception, but regardless, I want to know how this game played at launch. Then we'll patch it later and see if anything was well and truly fixed. Seems like Robomodo had some help with this one. Disruptive Games. Following those logos, we get an intro movie showcasing the skaters doing their thing, something that carries over to the main menu. Okay, I kinda like that. Actually loading into the game now, and we can see this looks off. It seems the devs thought it'd be a good idea to give the art style a cel-shaded approach. If it looked a little stylized like in Shred, I could give it a pass, but this comes off as tacky and half-arsed. The character models also look uncanny. It's all so very ugly and I hate it. It almost looks like a late Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 title because, well, it is. Even by the standards of those consoles for the time, for 2015, this looks horrendous. I also don't know what to make of these controls. X is used to push and you move after 2 kicks for some reason. I assume the first was for moral support. Alternatively, you can push with R2 and brake with L2, although steering left or right feels sluggish, like driving a car through a river of maple syrup. Your skater feels very light coming off a ramp, yet simultaneously very heavy while spinning or falling. It's difficult to convey how stiff and airy it feels through gameplay footage alone. You also have a basic arsenal of tricks up your board. Too basic as a matter of fact. You get a pitiful 8 flip and grab tricks each, since double tap tricks or customizing your loadout have been omitted. If that's not enough, let me tell you about grinding. Like before, the triangle button lets you grind over a rail or edge. Sounds about right. Now let me introduce the slam mechanic. While in the air, pressing triangle will make your skater sharply fall to the ground with about as much grace as a train collision. I feel this was implemented as a direct response to the floatiness of Pro Skater HD. I like the idea, don't get me wrong, but it really shouldn't have been mapped to the same button you use to grind. Basically, each time you attempt to hop onto a rail, you risk ending your combo because of how quickly you descend with little to no time to react nor correct yourself. If you've played any of the previous games, you kinda have to unlearn what you know to adapt to this change, putting more focus on your timing. but besides that, it doesn't change the fact that it's not only completely unrealistic, it's also a potential hindrance to the player at any given moment. Other times the slam works and you magnetize to the edge. That's also a thing that happens. I'll tell you what doesn't happen: bailing from a grind or manual. This was probably an accessibility thing, however I would have preferred it to be optional. When you do bail, your skater will simply ragdoll before a fade to white and you're back on your board like nothing happened, which is pretty lame. Sorry, back to the controls. Wall rides are now automatic, presumably because the slam is a toxic roommate, meaning they're too easy to perform by complete accident. Despite spine transfers making a comeback, I can count on one hand the number of times I used them. You've also got lip tricks, reverts, and wall planks at your disposal, which I have little issue with. The true creme de la creme is the bastardization of the special meter. Once it's full, you can't activate it until you end your combo. Why do I need to do that exactly? The special meter was a reward for playing well, so this is extremely counterintuitive. Upon activation, any trick you perform is replaced with a special variant. No special button input, no skill. Just spam to your little heart's contempt. Also, don't you dare think about spamming any special grab tricks away from a vert ramp, they will sabotage you! To top it all off, you are unable to refill the meter during or after it's fully depleted unless you, once again, end your combo. Was this an intentional design choice? An oversight? Why does it work like this? And that's all we get. No grind or lip extensions, no flatland tricks, no Nata spins, you can't get off your board like in Underground 1 onwards, focus mode is gone, nail a trick is gone, rigging is gone, Burt slides are gone. You know, for a game proudly calling itself Pro Skater 5, the next step forward as it were, we seem to be taking far more steps back. These are all established concepts in the other games, yet triple kickflips are some taboo shit. Apparently, Robomodo were working with some of the Neversoft devs to make the controls feel as close to those original games as possible. I don't want to doubt them, but I find it hard to believe if this is the result. The first stage is the Barracks, a level based on an actual skate park. It's a warehouse with a small handful of lines to skate and an outdoor pool area. Does this work for a real skate park? Yes, it does. But how about for an interactive video game? What's the opposite of that statement? The layout is very reminiscent of a slice of bread. It's flat, simple, there's no distinct flavour to it whatsoever, not to mention needlessly small and spacious compared to other first levels in the series, like College or New Jersey for example. On a lighter note, the mission structure takes the Pro Skater 4 approach, where you have multiple objectives sprinkled across the map that you can seek out to begin when and in whatever order you want. Lovely stuff. There's also a few free roam objectives to complete, like collecting skate and combo letters, finding the hidden tape, hidden DVD, and destroying a set number of objects hidden throughout the area. Here in the barracks, we need to break 8 of these swag crates. Yep, I sure am playing a 2015 video game. Cringe incarnate aside, I do like that these free roaming tasks encourage exploration, letting you discover the few decent combo opportunities scattered around. That's good. Despite those benefits, the other missions aren't too engaging, to be honest. There's this high score objective, as to be expected, as well as getting a high score in a trick spot, delivering ice creams to a certain area, breaking drones, skating through rings, getting airtime and grinding with high multipliers, Tony Says, which is just a Simon Says mode, this big head mode where you need to score combos to keep your head from exploding, and getting beach balls out of a pool. They are pretty basic all things considered, however this is the first level, so we can't expect anything mind-blowing just yet. Having completed enough objectives to unlock the next level, I grew bored of being Tony Hawk and wanted to create my own skater, except there is no creator skater mode in this game. Instead, we choose from one of the 10 pre-existing pros, swapping between a very limited selection of heads, bodies, and decks, which is just pathetic. Other games could at least let you create someone who vaguely looks like you, even with limited tools at your disposal. You can make Lara Croft if you have an obsession. You can make Jesus Christ himself. But in this game, you don't even get the bare minimum to work with. Not even the unlockable items you can purchase with your in-game money are a worthwhile investment. That's not Tony Senpai. Well, everybody, say hello to Phony Hoax, Procrastinator. I also think it's worth noting that none of the pros have any base stats to distinguish themselves or reflect their specialities as skaters. They're merely husks. Speaking of the stats, upgrading them is something you can only do in the main menu, therefore you can't adjust them accordingly in-game as you progress. You need to stop everything you're doing for the sake of making a solitary trip to the character select. It's not like this benefits the player in any way, shape or form, so why inconvenience them? Continuing my skate career, I take a trip to Bonfire Beach, though it's really more of a ghost town. You may have noticed there are no NPCs wandering about, with missions instead being given by these generic as hell markers that make me feel like I'm skating around Google Street View. All we need now is Google Vert View and we'll be good to go. That's a little bit of skateboarding humor for you there. All they do is accentuate how lonely this game is. There's no life to these environments at all. Furthermore, in this kinetic, fast-paced extreme sports game, you need to come to a complete halt to use the markers reliably. Except sometimes they just don't want to fucking work, so you're better off using the designated menu anyway. It's quicker, it's easier, and it renders the markers completely pointless. Bonfire Beach itself barely has any level design to speak of because there's almost nothing interesting to skate on. Just empty space everywhere you go, which probably wouldn't be too bad if you didn't move as slow as the 10:39 bus to the nearest Tesco. Even with what little the game gives you to skate along, there's little to no cohesion between the different set pieces. Instead, the game gives you a mega ramp to play with, which gives you a very artificial feeling boost to your airtime. That's it. To the left of that, you can even see the original Venice Beach level off in the distance. Great, can I go explore over there please, as opposed to this barren hellhole? Missions we've seen beforehand make a reappearance alongside some target practice, lighting torches, getting a high score off the mega ramp, collecting voodoo dolls with a high multiplier, and collecting marshmallows to bring them to a specific area. There is this mission type called Hawkman, which is okay I suppose. You follow the predetermined line, doing different tricks according to the ball colour. Yellow means grind, red is getting air, green is manual, and blue is wall riding. It's pretty enjoyable when you don't phase through the pickups you need and have to restart the bloody thing at least. This leads us into School 3. It looks pretty familiar actually, maybe if you zoom out a little bit more, now squint a bit and eventually, there it is, unmistakable. This level is a rip-off of School 2 from Pro Skater 2, with barely a hint of originality in sight. It in fact removes chunks of that level, changes up the homework ever so slightly, and calls it a day. There is one, count it, one redeeming factor on display, that being the bold colour palette that better reflects the art style the game is going for. As for the objectives, we're still doing the same bland rubbish 3 levels in. Spoiler alert, it never changes. Every level has a high score goal, a big head challenge, and a bloody ring challenge like this is Finding Nemo for the Nintendo GameCube. These ball pool missions are not fun because the physics are woefully unreliable, meaning you can't plan ahead. I didn't find it engaging the first time, I sure as hell am not going to find it engaging the second, third, or even fourth go around. The ring and collectible challenges are practically interchangeable. Shooting targets with projectiles isn't fun. Every multiplier challenge doesn't care if you spam the same tricks ad nauseum to keep your score up, they aren't fun. Gathering random items to bring them back to a part of a map isn't fun. Doing tricks one at a time because Tony says isn't fun. It's akin to playing Pro Skater 4 on the PlayStation 1, since most of what you're doing is the same monotonous high score goals from start to finish. There's almost nothing new in between, and when the game finally offers you something new, it's the most asinine shit imaginable. Take this relay race in School 3 as an example. Hit the 3 balls, then head back to the fountain. Scoring a goal with these things is wholly unnecessary. Just touch them, then head right on back. Great game design, Robomodo. I am 110% enthralled. There's also this mission where you get this, knock barrels into a pool. where it's just you at the mercy of the physics engine sending barrels flying everywhere except where you need them to go. Does this look fun to you? Some missions won't even let you end them early if you hit your score goal. You must sit through the lengthy Nixon-sponsored timer every single time to keep your progress. Unlocking and completing the pro goals isn't rewarding either because they're just harder versions of the Snorefests you've recently partaken. These Mega Ramp and Trick Spot challenges do forbid you from using certain moves, like manuals or reverts, which does add some much needed difficulty. The catch is the former goal gives you virtually nothing to help extend your combo, so you need to fly off to the side and pray that you'll land on something to grind instead of slamming right next to it. This is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over expecting different results. It's just not happening. These level designs don't get much better either. The Mega Park is ironically about as generic of a skate park level as you can get, mainly consisting of empty pools with not much else to do. It's as unremarkable as it sounds in all honesty. This is followed by the rooftops, a stage which really hammers home just how liminal this game is. Look. Listen. There is absolutely nothing going on here. Despite the fact that everything is set up for a party of some kind, there's no NPCs, no personality, and for Pro Skater 5's speciality, no fun. The reason for this is that Pro Skater 5 boasted online multiplayer for up to 20 people at launch. Robomodo intended for the empty space to be populated by other bastards unfortunate enough to be playing this slop. However, the servers are no longer active these days. Gee, I wonder why. You can forget about split-screen multiplayer too, since that's never made the cut. It appears the devs were putting all their eggs in one basket, down to the menu buttons prioritizing online play. 10 years later, and we can see this decision has aged like fine milk. Back to the level itself, design-wise it is a mess, no other word for it. 8 rooftops with no flow between any of them, and it's a pain in the rear to navigate even with the double jump power-up the game gives you. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that most levels in this game have some sort of gimmicky power-up. Kind of fitting, since most of them also feel like an afterthought. The one in Bonfire Beach sets your board on fire. It does nothing. School 3 infuses your board with electricity, which lets you shoot the ball further. It does nothing. The Mega Park's power-up shows you what it's like to eat your greens, which also lets you smash this grate into the game's only secret area. An area you can already access by opening the mission select, removing any sense of accomplishment for exploring. It does nothing. The bunker has this Super Slam power-up that's only used in these specific crate-breaking goals. It does, you guessed it, nothing. Not only is the power-up here uninspired, the level design is too, but I don't know, I might have conjured that second part up in a fever dream. It takes so much from the warehouse and the hangar that it borders on identity theft, yet with all that said, it's the game's best designed level. Not really a compliment to Pro Skater 5, just an example of how well those first 2 games' levels hold up. You could argue that Robomodo wanted to pay tribute to classic levels, but I couldn't disagree more. This doesn't feel like a loving homage, but rather the result of a developer who is so lacking in time and money given to them by their publisher that they had to resort to ripping assets from Pro Skater HD. I mean, it is quicker, cheaper, and easier than having to make an entirely new level from scratch, right? We do get this sizable back alley portion of the map to string together some map-wide combos at least, and the helicopter gives you an extra boost to your air. Again, a solid level, just a shame it's not entirely original. The last level on the disc is the asteroid belt, or at least it would be if the game didn't decide to crash. Yeah, there's no dancing around it anymore. This is one of the worst performing games I have ever played. When it's not crashing, the game can temporarily freeze. The textures flicker constantly. Black squares can just appear for no discernible reason. Those barrels I mentioned before didn't reset properly, making the challenge much easier than it should have been. A rare good glitch. Hilariously of all, the skater physics are completely buggered. Phony got impaled by tiki wood, became one with the floor on numerous occasions, and seems to be allergic to rails. You see, here in Pro Skater 5, we don't just kiss the rails, they bite back. I'm not even joking. What else is going on here that's causing me to bail countless times? Am I ascending? Am I about to meet Skate Jesus? I've also seen much worse online, including spawning under the map and seizure-inducing flashes. This game has so many glitches that it's almost like everyone's copies are personalized in some way. Whatever the case, it is inexcusable that the game launched in this state. Once the game stopped soiling the bed, I loaded the asteroid belt and was met with the level's gimmick, moon gravity. Remember how fun moon gravity was in the previous games? Although it wasn't something you needed, you could still spend countless hours breaking the game by scoring ridiculous strings of air tricks or simply hopping out of bounds with enough brute force. This level, on the other hand, forces you to use moon gravity, the problem being that the skatable terrain isn't designed with it in mind, in case you needed any sort of affirmation that these power-ups were hasty additions. It's a bit like when you're going to take the bins out only for your mum to tell you that you need to take the bins out. Shortly afterwards, you do not want to take those bins out anymore, much like how you wouldn't want to use moon gravity if you were forced to. If you want to jump smoothly from rail to rail, the slam button is a must, meaning you risk ending your combo either from overshooting your ollie, or from bailing out of circumstances beyond your control. It's a lose-lose scenario, and it's a shame because the actual level design is decent, albeit a bit underwhelming. You might think I have nothing super positive to say about the game, but there is one thing I quite liked, and that is the soundtrack. Much like every other Tony Hawk game before it, the music is all licensed tracks, so I can't share any of it with you here, lest I risk YouTube showing up to my house for the bounty on my head. What we did get was pretty good, dare I say underrated, with a lot of these songs growing on me the more I played. It doesn't hold a candle to what came before it, since I don't think some of it fits a skating game. I mean, I could do without fucking Skrillex. Nor can you skip or disable the songs you do not like, but I'll put a few of the ones I did on screen for you to check out because Robomodo sure as hell didn't outside of the credits. The last thing left to look at is the Creator Park mode. I must confess, I was never the biggest fan of this in other games, mainly because I didn't invest enough time in them to create something passable. My creations were quite bad, I'm not going to lie. Here in Pro Skater 5, you can choose between small, medium, and large themed templates to place a nice variety of obstacles about, though I don't think you can make gaps like in previous games. I'll be completely honest, I dedicated very little time here, not only because I didn't want to waste my time making a level I couldn't share for, well, reasons, but I purposefully went out of my way to break the physics. Seriously, they are about as brittle here as Elon Musk's ego. Rails I placed didn't want to be rails and I was consistently able to clip through ramps. Look at this, I even got rewarded for it. Holy collision physics, Birdman. If you spent enough time here, you could create a half-decent park, I just don't know why you'd want to in this game of all things. For the sake of being thorough, I wanted to update the game to see if it was cleaned up even a little bit, meaning I needed to sit through the 5GB patch, bringing the total amount of storage space required for this shit show up to 12GB. Surely this new patch is just brimming with extra content. Warning, be sure to keep the latest patch installed for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 when using this save or you risk losing all progress. Oh no, not my very valuable Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 save data. Whatever will I do? We have 3 new maps to skate around in, except you can't get into a private match because the game can't find a server. I don't understand this bloody game. The solution is very simple. Gaslighting. Go into your console's internet settings, turn off the Wi-Fi, and presto. The suffering continues. It's fine. It's not like I need people to know I'm playing this thing. Mountain is up first, and this is another solid level. I'm genuinely impressed here. It's a downhill stage, which is a refreshing change of pace. It looks passable, by this game's standards at least. You can ice manual to go faster, and there's a handful of mini-parks to complement the downhill lines to skate across. The variety is actually very appreciated. Wild West is next up, and I really do not like this one. How do you design a map that feels too small and too big at the same time? The power-up here is just the opposite of the one present in the Mega Park, shrinking down to access an area you can still get to with the press of a few buttons. It also could have leaned way more into the Wild West aesthetic. Admittedly, there are some cool combo opportunities linked together by these minecart tracks. Finally, there's the Underground. Take the praise I gave the mountain level and reverse it. Another downhill map, except it's dreary, the skatepark sections feel very cramped, and I cannot for the life of me tell what the power-up is doing, so I'm going to assume it's doing nothing. No improvements to the missions have been made. Not only does the game load more often, changing the music every time you start or end one, which is really annoying, but the game sends you back to the original spawn point in the level instead of letting you continue from where you finished, killing any dwindling incentive I had to explore. Why break something that wasn't broken? Not only does this shatter the player's immersion, but what's the point of designing several open-ended levels for players to explore, only to rip that away by plonking them back at the start of the level every single time? Plus, you've still got your score-based goals, your ring races, your arbitrary item collecting, etc., etc. This bloody ball game makes an unwanted reappearance, and I really wish it didn't because I can practically smell the fumes coming from my PlayStation 5 trying to render all these physics objects on screen. Let me reiterate, even the PlayStation 5 struggles to maintain a steady frame rate trying to render all these sheep simultaneously. Okay, to be fair, in other areas the game's performance has been improved. Sure, you'll still see the occasional black squares and the Creator Park's complexity meter will appear where it shouldn't at times, but these are merely visual quirks that do not impact the gameplay whatsoever. The updates also add 4 new playable characters. Up first is Graham from the King's Quest series. He is in the roster pre-patch, however I bring him up now because he's unlocked by playing the online multiplayer modes. So the update adds 3 new playable characters. We've got both Lil Wayne and Tyler the Creator, who I don't mind. If you're a fan of their stuff, they're neat additions to the roster, but neither of their music is in the game. As cool as it is to see them here, it really feels like the collaborations are missing something. We've also got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. See, this cell shading is cool. Why couldn't the rest of the game look like this? I will say that the game feels better to play now too, albeit by a fraction. No longer is Phony attempting to leave this plane of existence. The special meter recharges during a combo after it's run out, yet you still can't use it more than once per combo, and it still only lasts for a few measly seconds. Other than that, the slam button can be assigned to a double tap to alleviate accidentally breaking your line, the only control option you can change by the way. The UI looks more presentable, and that's it. So to summarize, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is a lot of things. Take your pick. This game was rightly lambasted by critics and disowned by fans for spitting in the faces of everyone who supported the series over the years. Everyone whose likenesses were used to promote it, and everyone who was unfortunate enough to pay full price for the displeasure of experiencing it. It's not even worth a single penny. This truly is one of the worst games, perhaps even the worst game I have ever played. Terrible graphics, terrible performance, a different and restrictive control scheme for the sake of being different, mostly awful level design, bland, uninteresting and repetitive gameplay, none of that titular Pro Skater charm. Everything people say about this game, it's all true. For as much crap I and many other Pro Skater fans give Robomodo, they were shut down in 2016, 1 year after the game's launch, and frankly, I don't think they deserved that. Sure, every Tony Hawk game they made felt like a really bad college project, but we do have to remember that Activision was the one overseeing the development, rushing these games out of the door when none of them were even ready. The bottom line, stay away from Pro Skater 5. It's a cursed relic we are all better off forgetting about. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more in the future, and I will see you in the next one.